Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, please lead us from unreality to the reality, ignorance to the knowledge, and from death to immortality. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Dear devotees, it is a quite interesting topic. The national saints of the Ireland. This was, in fact, it was from few days or maybe few months I was thinking to speak about this, but somehow or other things were not falling at place. So today is the day on which we are able to speak on the national saints of Ireland. As we all know, or you might know, that there are three national saints accepted by the Irish people or the Ireland country. Saint Patrick, of course, we all know that, Saint Brigid, and Saint Columba. So these are the three saints, is the national saints of Ireland. So today, probably I will be starting with Saint Patrick. If time permits, then I will be going to Saint Brigid. Otherwise, just probably I'll be discussing on Saint Patrick. And the next 2 weeks, I'll be discussing about other two saints. Now, we are all divine people, as the Upanishads and the Vedanta says, we are all divine. But in few, this divinity has been manifested more. For example, everywhere there are water. There is water in the earth, no doubt. But there are places where the water bodies are there. The collection of water is more in the quantity and quality also. Mainly quantity, of course. So similarly, in this life of saints, the divinity's manifestation is more in the nature. Why? Because through their pure life, through their austerities, through their penances, and they have opened themselves. Their body, mind, personality was opened to the God's grace or the divine. And of course, these are the people who have tried to practice the truth, whatever they preach. And not only that, they are the guiders, they are the directors, spiritual directors of the humankind. Today, in the present day, we all use GPS, either Google or a Waze, different apps we use, and using the maps, Google Maps or a Waze, we reach our destinations. So similarly, these people are spiritual GPS. They show us the path, how to reach the God, how to experience the divine, how to experience the bliss, how to manifest the great qualities like compassion, mercy, spirituality, and whatnot. And according to me, the saints, they have spent a lot of time and energy, dedicated themselves, of course, and moreover, they're specially chosen by the God as his messenger to spread the teachings of the Lord. So, and why God only selected them, and why didn't God select me, or why didn't God select X and Y? Because they have become the fittest instrument in the Lord's hand. Because of our unripened ego, because of our narrow-mindedness, our lack of compassion, lack of mercy, more than everything, we have not, because of our unripened ego, pseudo ego, we have not become fittest instruments in the Lord's hands. As a result, God has not selected us as his messengers. Whereas in the saints' life, they have killed they have washed the dirt called the unripened ego, the pseudo ego. As a result, they have become fittest instrument, and God has selected them. For example, prism. In the prism, if you keep a red hibiscus flower or a red lotus, the prism takes the complete color called red. Now you remove that and you keep the yellow flower. The prism takes the yellow color completely, isn't it? A good conductor of electricity, we can speak metal. Metals are good conductor of electricity. Now, for example, wood or a plastic, no. And there are some other metals, they are better, I mean, they are better, and some metals, they are the best conductor of electricity. So similarly, the more and more we wash our ego, the dirt, and we remove our ignorance, we will be the fittest instrument in the Lord's hand. We can be His messengers. And of course, they have done a lot of spiritual practices. They have tried to practice prayers, meditation, repetition of the Lord's name, or service to humanity, and whatnot. Because of that, they have received His grace and they're able to share His message, His grace to the people also. So they are specially chosen people. And among them, Saint Patrick is also one among them who is specially chosen by the Lord to spread his gospel. Now, though he's a national saint of our Ireland, there are a lot of stories about him, but nothing is authoritative or authentic, based on the folklore and based on the some utterances and his own autobiography called Confessio. So based on that, there are few like connecting the dots stories are there in and around Saint Patrick's. Some are believed out of faith, some are questioned, some are accepted, maybe or may not be. But is a man of great character, is a man of spiritual wisdom, is a man of total surrender to the divine, and is a man with spiritual mission. That is no doubt. Now, of course, he has written a short biography named The Confessio 3 in, so that is the source book, we can say. And Saint Patrick, more or less agreed, is he was born in the Britain in 386 AD to the wealthy family, or higher middle class family, we can say. And his father name, his father was Calphurnius. His father name was Calphurnius, and mother name was Conchessa. So, and the father was I think, in the Roman officer, and some say he was a deacon. So he was a Roman official, basically. He was collecting the taxes and all. So they had their own estate, and they're a well-to-do family, a sort of, or maybe a bureaucracy. And probably what do you say? Patrick, when he was 16 years old, the Irish raiders who attacked the coastal area, the west coast of the area of the Britain, and they also attacked the home or the estate of the Saint Patrick, where Saint Patrick was kidnapped. He was kidnapped, basically. So they say the village estate was in the village Banaran, somewhat there. So he was caught there and he was captured there and he was brought, what you say, to the Ireland. And also some sources, some biographies say that the Patrick's, the childhood name was Mavin Sukat. Mavin Sukato or Sukat is the childhood name. So after his accepting his monastic vows or whatever, at some point of time, he's named as Patrick. So basically, he was captured and he was brought to Ireland and he was sold in slavery in Dalried. Because if you see in those days, in the Romans, Greeks, they used to capture the people and they used to sell. And in the Middle East, we have seen, and even unfortunately, even the Europeans have done all these things. I think in the 18th or 19th century, I mean, in the US and Britain and all, they brought the law banishing this slave basically, slave trade and slave and all, slavery basically. And again, one of his biography suggests that he was sold to Milchu. Some say Millu or some say Milchu. Basically, he was a high priest in Druidism, which was a pagan sect in those days, which was held as a major religious sect, pagan sect, which was very highly influential in the Ireland in those days. and he was the high priest of that pagan sect, and Saint Patrick was sold to that person. So Saint Patrick didn't had a bed of roses in those days because he was a slave. I mean, he was put into slavery. So he was in the west coast of the Ireland. Mostly, he had a very difficult life or hard life. So you have to face a lot of struggles and tough situations. Now, this is one important point or important probably thing which every one of us we can see. Adversities are opportunities. Oh, there's a problem, there's a problem. I keep on lamenting. I may continue in commenting, lamenting, crying, cursing, and all. This is a very base way of understanding our approach towards the problem. Yeah, there is some challenges, let me face it. Situation has not changed externally, but my approach towards that has been changed. Instead of saying, thinking this as a problem, I'm saying that there's a challenge. Let me make it. Let me try to rise myself, and so that I can accept the challenge and I can clear it. This is little higher one, better positive attitude. And the best attitude is there's an opportunity. Let me make use of it. So you can conceive, or you can perceive the problem as an opportunity. And from that sense, I said adversities are opportunities. They're not the blocks in the human life, rather, they're the building blocks. So you can use the stone to block the water. You can use the stone to build the bridge. You can use the stone to build the dam and channelize the water for agriculture and irrigation. So how do you make use of life and our own power and all things? It is left to us. Now he was put into slavery, no doubt. He was forced into slavery, and he was worked as he has to work as a shepherd boy. I think there's a lot of connection in the Christianity starting from Jesus Christ and his followers. So many of his Jesus Christ followers were shepherd people, shepherd boys, isn't it? So interestingly, the Patrick was probably forced to work as a shepherd boy, and he was away from people, and he was away from the society. He had a lonely life. So lonely life can be a curse. Lonely life can be very boredom. But in the Patrick's case, he was fear, and many times he felt bored, no doubt, and he was also fearful sometimes because of that loneliness, heavy rains, West Coast we all know, rough weather, so heavy rain and whatnot. He was sometimes afraid also, but slowly, he came out from all these challenges or problems, and he made them as an opportunity. Okay, there's a forced loneliness, no doubt, forced solitude, no doubt. He started using that as a stepping stone for the spiritual practice. Okay, he has to look after the sheep and all, no doubt. He's a shepherd boy. Doing his work, he started developing devotion and the prayer to the God. Maybe one time, starting with, then 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, 50 times. And one biography says, mentions that almost every day he used to pray 100 times, it seems. He used to pray 100 times to the Lord Christ. So he used that problem as an opportunity. Okay, so here for almost like 12 or 14 years, or maybe 6 to 8 years, again, some 6, 8 years, they say. So roughly, I think it is accepted 6 to 8 years. He was in that condition. He had a very tough life, challenging life, lonely life, forced solitude. But slowly, he converted that as a wonderful opportunity for spiritual practice. And he does a lot of spiritual practices like prayers and all. And one day, probably in 408 AD, he had a dream, it seems. In the dream, there was an angel appeared in his dream, and the angel told that you have fasted enough and you have done prayers enough. So you are purified enough, etc. So now it is your time to get freedom and to go to your birthplace or the native country. He was very happy. And angel told, probably Drahida, I think. So such and such a place, there will be a boat. You go there and you can get into that. And that boat is going to your native place, nearby native place. Then you can reach. So some say he walked around 200 kilometers in the on the valleys, mountain area, in the forest area, without proper food, shelter, and all. So with all difficulties, he walked and he reached the place where the angel had suggested. And interestingly, he saw, in fact, the boat which was sailing to his country. He was very happy and he was about to get into the boat. Then the boatman asked, "Have you got money for the travel? You have to pay the money." This poor shepherd boy, he didn't have any money. He said, "Sorry, I don't have." Then the owner of the boat said, "Then sorry, I cannot take you." And all. Then you see, there also he didn't feel negative or he didn't get disgusted, he didn't scold or quarrel, whatnot, which we do react. But rather, he started praying to the Lord, to the God, "Oh Lord, you appeared in the form of angel, or the angel appeared and guided, and now things are not happening. Please help me, please save me." So he was continuously praying, standing aside, and he was praying. And interestingly, the fellow passengers, they felt some mercy and compassion towards Patrick, and I think they, what do you say, they bargained with the boatman, and probably they shared his travel expenses. And finally, he was called into the boat, and he was very happy. He got into the boat, and he did travel to his native country, and he joined the family. After 6 or 8 years afterwards, he joined his family. As you know, that definitely his parents were very happy. So he was also very happy to see his parents. For a few days, time went on, time rolled. Then I mean, somehow his inner conscience started feeling that this is not my life. This is not my place. Where should I stay? Where should I spend? Where I should spend my life? Then what he should do? Because he had a divine guidance and he had heard a voice, divine voice, saying that, "We beg you, holy boy, to come and walk among us. We beg you, holy boy, to come and walk among us." So as a result, he went to France for a monastery, probably Auxerre or Lerin monastery in the France event, which belonged to the Saint Germanius congregation. There, he for 14 years he stayed there, and he got all the monastic training. And for 15 years he stayed there. In 418 AD, that around 418 AD, he was ordained as deacon, and in the 432 AD, Bishop Auxerre, he consecrated him. Mm, he gave, I mean, he was, what do you say, from deacon, he was raised to the level of bishop, and his name, he was given the name Patricus. So in the 432 AD, he became the bishop and is named as Patricus. Then, according to the story goes like this: the Pope Celestine I, he asked the Patricus to go to the Ireland to spread the Christianity. And there is already a small packet, a small amount of Christians were there already in Ireland. So he said, the Pope, you go them and you help them to retain their faith and also try to spread the Christianity in the Ireland. Ireland, they had their own religion, pagan religion, they say, or Celtic religion or Celtic culture. So there you spread the Christianity. So he had basically two, what do you say, jobs to do it. One is to minister the Christians who are already living in Ireland. The other is to connect the to convert the Irish pagans into Christianity. And also, again, one more story tells that before him, there was already one bishop. For some reasons, there was, I think, confrontation with the local people, and he was killed. So Palladius, the first bishop of Ireland, was sent in 431 AD, it seems, but he was killed. So, but Patrick, he came, and because Pope Celestine I, he sent him, he came there and he started protecting the existing Christians. And not only that, slowly, he started converting the pagans into Christianity. And to do that, he understood we have to merge, or we have to probably accept, adopt our local culture, the Irish culture, into the Christianity. So he also took the sun, because the pagans used to worship the sun, and across the different civilizations we see that. So he also adapted the sun into the cross, and that's how we got a Celtic cross. Celtic cross is different from other regular cross, isn't it? And also that bonfire to celebrate Easter, which was a local culture, he also accepted that. So in that way, the Christianity which we see in Ireland in those days and the Christianity which you see in the middle part of Europe, there was some differences because of the local culture adopting. So, and interestingly, Patrick was never canonized as a saint. In those days, I think it was not there or whatever, but he was there was a popularly acclaimed that he's a saint, and we call even now today Saint Patrick. Now, when Saint Patrick came, or Patrick came, Patricus, he confronted with the king of Tara by lighting a huge fire to mark the commencement of spring before the king lighting the fire, because there was a tradition that the king should fire the bonfire at the beginning of the spring. That was the tradition. But before king lighting the fire, the Patrick, he lighted it, and which attracted the attention of the king. And king summoned him, and he came. And afterwards, he explained the reason and other things, whatever. Then the king became his disciple, and he got into Christianity, converted into Christianity. Probably that's the time where the Ireland got the king's support, so that it became easy for him, the Patrick, to convert the pagans into Christianity. Because I think Patrick said that you may be the king of this earthly land, and the real king is what, Lord Jesus and all. And I think he also tried to said, mm, the reality or the real king of our land is what, the saint Jesus Christ and all. So basically, because of the saintly behavior, saintly nature, and his spiritual power, Patrick's spiritual power or the power of prayer, made the king the king got impressed by the Patrick's nature, and he got converted into Christianity. And there's a one more story, a standard story in the case of Patrick. Patrick chased away all the snakes and the demons. And there is a Croc Patrick, the mountain. Even I had been there. It is a very holy mountain, because 40 days and nights Saint Patrick stayed there, and he did a fasting, it seems, fasting and prayers. So it is pilgrimage site. Many people, they do climb that as a part of pilgrimage. Even I had been there. It is a quite interesting site. And there is a small lake in the base of the Crockpatrick Hill. So the legend goes, the mythology story, as per mythology story, the Saint Patrick, forced all the snakes and the demons to that lake, it seems. But people, some accept based on the faith, but others say that may not be, because Ireland is an island, and because of this rainy weather and the cold climate and whatnot, because of that, probably there would not have been snakes even earlier. Also, that is a reason there were no snakes. So it is a folklore just to make the Saint Patrick great, or whatever he has. They have used the geographical situation that he has chased the snakes. That's the one story. And the other interpretation they give, that in those days the pagans also used to worship the sun god, and also they used to worship the snake. Even different part of civilizations across the world, we know snake worship. In India, Hindus also worship snakes, no doubt, as a part of powerful god and all. So he wanted to remove that. As a result, the story was told that the snakes were killed, or snakes were chased away by the Saint Patrick. So basically, the pagans should denounce their few rituals or whatever. For that reason, he was done basically. And he retired to the Sal country down where, which is in Northern Ireland, because again the story goes that he was advised by the angel to him that he should stay there and he should leave his body. So he lived and he left their body there, and there the assumption that he might have written his confessio there. And the story also, the two, three stories also are that he raised 33 people from the dead or the deceased people. And he prayed for the provision of the food for hungry sailors who were traveling. And because of his prayer, all of a sudden, miraculously, they got a huge amount of food. So, like that, there were some stories which goes that Saint Patrick has created, has done miracles, because that's one of the, I mean, what do you say, yardstick to decide a person who is a saint, who can be saint or not. He has to do some miracles basically. So in Saint Patrick's life also, they say that he has done miracles, like 20, 33 people who were deceased, and long deceased people also, dead people and deceased people were raised, uh, etc. And one more story, standard story, is Shamrock. Shamrock is a national flower of Ireland, we know that, and which has got a three-leaved plant. And this he used to, what do you say, to explain the Holy Trinity, three persons in one God, or who explain the Christian concept of Holy Trinity. That is also there. And in March 17, 461, the Saint Patrick, he passed away, they say that. And there is a church in the place where he built there. And also there are quite a few places, a lot of, churches were built by Saint Patrick. And as per the, again, the stories goes, he traveled across the Ireland. He converted a good amount of people, or majority of the Irish people, into the Christianity of his divinely nature, or saintly nature. That's the one thing. And he organized dioceses, and he trained the monks. He guided them, and he gave a good shape to the Christianity. Of course, Roman Catholicism, no doubt. He gave a good shape for the Roman Catholicism, and he worked hard. And basically, at some point of time, he retired, and he stayed in a particular place, and where he wrote his autobiography, and he left his mortal coil. This is what the standard few stories or few anecdotes about Saint Patrick. But all the while, if you see, his life was with full of dedication. His life was with full of commitment. One thing is that he heard the divine voice, his own conscience, you can say, a divine voice, and he was always guided by the divine's conscience. Okay, for example, going back to the family, united to the family, and from family going to the monastery in the France and getting the training, and coming to the Ireland. All these things, you see, either it was always commissioned by the Lord. That's where I say saints are commissioned by the Lord, commissioned by the Supreme Self to do the Supreme Self's or God's work, or the Lord's work. So I think Saint Patrick is also one of the chosen person, or a lucky person, chosen person by the God to do his great mission, because he raised himself to that stature, and he became worthy of that great, what do you say, luck. And if you, one is that, and the second thing, you see, from the, he was captured. Till then probably he was not a very great religious and spiritual person, but he converted the adversities as an opportunity. And not only that, he was spending a good amount of time in spiritual practice regularly. So here, habits is, the role of habit is also very interesting point. The more and more you try to japa, the repetition of the name, Lord's name, or the meditation, or the service to the poor people, or service to the people, thinking that they are the Lord resides in them, and love, compassion, mercy, and whatnot. By doing these things more and more, actually, I will be able to practice spirituality. The more and more I practice spiritual, I become pure. The sin or the impurities, everything reduces. The more and more it reduces, I am open to the divinity. I can experience the God. I can experience his presence, and I can be the right vehicle for his mission, for his work. Otherwise, in the name of God, we can do our own work, just to fulfill our ego, to fulfill our desires, or to fulfill our passion or whatnot, isn't it? So that's where we have to be a humble servant of the Lord. And Saint Patrick was one among them. So it's a great story, or the story of a saint, which can give a real, what you say, inspiration for all of us. So may the Lord bless all of us, and Saint Patrick bless all of us, so that we can also try to follow his path, follow his teachings, and experience the divine and the presence and be the fittest instrument to do the Lord's work. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.